Hello friend, I want to welcome you to my studio here at both Mixing Music Analog and HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. But if you're someone who doesn't have any hardware yet, or maybe you have no plans to buy any hardware, you can do 90% of what we're going to do in this course using plugins. And part of this course is going to be, I'm going to talk you through in all the different sections how you can achieve the same workflow that I'm doing here with plugins. So in this section, we're going to start to set up the session. I'm going to show you how my process is, how I prep every single session before we bring it out to the console and we start mixing. Now that I know where I want everything, now I'm going to go into Studio One in my I/O. Okay, I have a basic template for the I/O matrix that I use for every session. On the inputs, they're always the same, but on the outputs, because now we gotta set up outputs to route all the audio out of Studio One. Every one of those tracks, I gotta route it to a channel here on the board. When a pro-level drummer that records drums for a living knows how to record drums for a living, the one thing that you're going to notice, and you can see it just by looking at the waveforms, but you want to use your ears. But I want to show you this. Look at the consistency of the hits on the snare. You could hear how consistent this drummer plays. You could see it in the kick drum. You could hear how consistent this drummer plays. It's not wildly dynamic where you got to control all kinds of things, where snares are being hit way too hard at certain points of the song where they poke out and you got to compress them and all of that. We don't need to use a compressor to control an out of control dynamic drum performance, which happens all the time, right? If you've been mixing for any length of time, you get drums that are all over the place. And just to get the thing to sit and sound nice and compact, you got to compress the snot out of it. We don't need to do that. Our drum bus compressor is taking care of most of that. Now, we may use a compressor at one point or another to add some tone or some color, but what I'm trying to press upon you, and again, especially for my friends working in the box, is just because you have the tools, don't always use them unless you need it. We got to do this stuff with a purpose. Remember, I also told you, the SSL is a big compressor. Right? So it's already doing some of the sound shaping for me before I ever have to go to a piece of outboard gear. Okay, so you can hear, I'll take you over and show it to you on the handheld, but before I do that, I'm going to take it in and out here on the channel. Listen for the doom 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 doom. I mean, you can hear it, how it's kind of very dynamic, right? This smooths it out quite a bit, and we're doing probably 6 dB of compression. Okay, I feel like we're close. I like we don't have as much real sizzly top end than he does, which is fine, because now we're gonna listen to the other reference track quickly to kind of, again, I'm just trying to reacclimate my ears to the EQ curve and make sure we're not getting too bright or getting too mid-heavy or getting too low. I just wanna make sure, are we kind of going down the right path? And again, we're gonna tweak this as we go.
Let me find a way, yeah.
Okay, so we're compressing kind of heavy. We're compressing 12 dB on that chorus, maybe even a little bit heavier. But what I love about this 260 VU is it gets up there, compresses, and it holds it. It doesn't have a very quick release, which is great. So it pulls that vocal forward and it just sits right out in front of you, which is what we want in a track like this, and something that Brandon had mentioned to me was something that was important to him. He wants that vocal up front and center. And we want that in a song, especially a song like this. It's not heavy metal, right? We're not competing with big, crunchy wall of guitars. We want the vocal to be the star of the show. And what I like about this particular compressor, again, always thinking about tone and thinking about what it does to shape the EQ piece of it. What I like about it is it doesn't dull the sound, it doesn't roll off the high end at all. And the more you hit it, it doesn't sound like it's compressing all that much. It doesn't sound like it's squeezing it. Like we're compressing at 15 dB and it doesn't sound like it.
Let me find a way to make you want it. Let me find a way to make you see. Let me find a place where we first started. Let me find a way. Let me find a way, yeah.
Okay, so all those vocals are coming down to a background vocal bus. So I'm gonna put a compressor on it just to tap the needle, because I don't really think it needs a lot of compression. But again, I'm not thinking about it from a compression point of view. I'm thinking of it from a stylistic, from a density point of view, and from a tonality point of view. So what I think I want to use on this one, I could put separate compressors on all three of the vocals individually. We have plenty of compressors that we can choose from. And sometimes I'll do that if I want, you know, I could put an 1176 on all of these. I got three 1176s available. We could do one for each vocal, which would be cool. But I'm thinking that maybe I want something a little bit different sounding, that maybe give me a little bit more saturation. We're gonna do this stuff in a very subtle way. Because the way I like to work hybrid is that I'm doing lots of little distortion and coloration and compression along the way, but I'm doing it in very small doses. And what that does is it keeps the track from sounding overly compressed or overly saturated and too tight, and it allows the track to breathe more, but it gives the mix a lot of personality. So in the box, this applies as well. The one thing that you have to remember when you're working with these kinds of plugins that you're working with, your channel stripping, your saturations and your tape machines and all of that, or even more so when you're working with hardware, is every single piece of gear that audio runs through is going to have two things that are going to happen to it. You're going to get some compression and you're going to get some saturation and some color. For example.
I'm just a one lone satellite, catching my signals in